You want something new, yet you keep looking at the same limitations. How many times have you felt ready for a new chapter, a breakthrough, a turning point, and still something always seems to keep everything exactly where it is? As if part of you is moving forward, while another part remains stuck in old perceptions. Maybe you're not stagnant. Maybe what's actually stuck is your focus, the gaze that keeps returning to the same patterns, the same fears, the same obstacles. The truth is, no reality exists without an observer, and the way you observe the world around you determines what stays and what dissolves. It's not magic, it's awareness. It's energy following direction. What you call a limit might just be a repeated reflection of your attention, because every time you look at something as unchangeable, you anchor it into your field. Every time you repeat to yourself that you can't, that it's hard, that there's no way out, you're feeding that scenario with the energy of belief. But what if the first step to creating something new isn't doing more, running harder, pushing further? What if true transformation begins the moment you stop observing what's holding you back and start observing what wants to be born? Today, I'm going to show you how to change what you see, and with that, make space for the new to emerge. Because your world doesn't change when everything around you transforms. It changes when you change what you choose to see. Every limitation begins with how you observe. Have you ever stopped to question whether what you call a limit really exists, or if it's just the way you're looking at the situation? We live as if obstacles are out there, as if reality were something solid, fixed, imposing conditions on us. But the truth is more subtle and far more powerful. The reality you experience is inseparable from the way you observe it, and that changes everything. Because it's not the limit itself that holds you back, it's your gaze that validates it, making it real within your vibrational field. When you see yourself in scarcity, when you look at your financial situation, and all you can see are bills, debts, failures, delays, your energy field aligns with that vision. The universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you sustain with your vibration. And that vibration is born from the way you perceive the world. If you look and believe you're stuck, you begin to act, feel, and vibrate like someone who's stuck. And in doing so, you reinforce exactly what you wish to overcome. The mind is a lens, and that lens can magnify, distort, or conceal aspects of reality. Two people looking at the same situation can have completely different outcomes. One sees dead ends, the other sees possibilities. One sees an ending, the other sees a new beginning. And here lies one of the deepest secrets. You become what you observe consistently. You are shaped by the way you view yourself, others, and the world around you. It's not the fact that determines your experience, but the meaning you give to it. Limitation is often an internal construct, reinforced by the habit of observing things the same way. And here's the worst part. The more you look at the limit, the more you believe in it. And the more you believe, the more it becomes real to you. But there's something even subtler. Observation is not passive. On the contrary, it is active and creative. What you observe, you feed with energy. What you feed, you strengthen. And what you strengthen expands. So if you spend your days telling yourself, I can't, nothing changes, it's hard, it's always been like this, there's no way. Those aren't just thoughts. They are observation commands. They're vibrations that anchor your focus in the old paradigm. Maybe what's keeping you from leaping forward isn't a real limitation, but a blind spot in your perception, an unconscious belief that causes you to see everything through the same filters of the past, even in the presence of new opportunities. That's why the first step toward freedom isn't trying harder. It's seeing differently. Because when your perspective changes, your energy shifts. And when your energy shifts, reality responds. Sustained focus on limitations creates more limitations. Whatever you sustain with your focus, you strengthen. Whatever you observe repeatedly with emotion and belief begins to take shape and density within you, and eventually, inevitably, reflects outside. The universe responds to what you emit consistently, and that emission is born from your focus. You may want prosperity, health, freedom, but if your focus is locked on what's missing, on what hurts, on what isn't working, what you're truly sending out is a vibrational confirmation that the problem still exists. And more than that it's more real than any potential solution. The quantum field, which interconnects everything and responds to the frequencies emitted by consciousness, isn't governed by what you say you want, but by what you perceive as truth. And if your daily truth is, I can't, this is hard, I don't have time, I don't have money, then that is exactly what will be amplified. Not as punishment, but as the natural result of the energy you project. Picture someone going through financial hardship. Every day they wake up and their first thought is, another day of struggle. I don't know how I'll pay for everything. They walk through the house noticing signs of lack, feel the weight of worry in their body, look at their bank account with fear, and silently repeat, everything's stuck. In doing so, they're not just acknowledging a situation, they're sustaining the vibration of limitation with their gaze, and thus perpetuating the same cycle. Repetition of focus creates mental and emotional pathways. The brain, by its neuroplastic nature, reinforces the most used connections. This means that the more you observe a specific scenario with the same emotion, the more automatic it becomes to think, feel, and act from that perspective. Over time, the person doesn't even realize they're feeding the problem. They start believing they're just being realistic. But it's not realism. It's a conditioned pattern of observation that needs to be broken. And the break begins when you understand focus is a choice, a practice, a creative tool. If you can observe fear constantly, you can also train your gaze to observe the solution just as frequently. If you can repeat the phrase, "it never works," you can also choose to repeat, "something new is emerging." It's not about denying your current reality, but about no longer treating it as a sentence. Because when you keep sustaining the old with your gaze, there's no room for the new to grow. The great trap is believing that thinking about the problem will solve it. But in truth, thinking about the problem over and over with negative emotion only strengthens it. That flow must be interrupted. The gaze must be redirected, not as an escape, but as conscious creation. Because as long as your focus remains on limits, that's exactly what the universe will continue to show you. More limits. More proof that nothing has changed. Changing your focus is not a symbolic gesture. It's an energetic shift that alters your field, reconfigures your frequencies, and allows alternative realities to begin drawing near. But the new cannot enter where the old is still revered every day with attention, with emotion, with belief. Shifting your focus isn't ignoring reality, it's creating a new one. Shifting your focus doesn't mean closing your eyes to what's happening. It's not about hiding from pain, pretending challenges don't exist, or living in denial. Shifting your focus means stepping into your role as a co-creator and realizing that, even in the face of a seemingly fixed reality, you have the power to redirect your energy, to rewrite the narrative of your life. The reality you see is not the end. It's only a reflection of what has already been observed, felt, and believed for long enough. Most people think that changing focus is the same as fooling yourself, as if looking away from a problem were irresponsible. But the real irresponsibility is staying enslaved to a repetitive way of seeing that only reinforces what you want to change. Transformation begins when you understand that you are not a hostage to what you see. You are the author, and you can rewrite the story the moment you decide to place your focus on what you want to expand instead of what you wish to avoid. Of course, there's an apparent reality. Bills to pay, difficult relationships, pain, fear, challenging situations. But there is also a vibrational reality, invisible yet forming in this very moment, shaped by what you choose to feed with your attention, and that's where creation begins. Real change doesn't happen when everything out there improves. It begins when, despite the external landscape, you choose to observe a new possibility within yourself. That is creator focus. It's seeing beyond the visible and holding a vision that hasn't taken shape yet, but is already pulsing inside your awareness. It's acting like someone who already trusts what's being born, even when nothing around confirms it. And this inner posture is not weakness, it's spiritual strength. It's a powerful choice that begins in silence and shows itself in the details. In the thoughts you repeat, the emotions you nurture, the way you position yourself in life. Imagine a gardener who, seeing the dry soil, decides to stop planting because nothing is working. That's the mindset of someone stuck in present reality. But a gardener who understands nature knows that what's planted today will become visible later. They water it, care for it, prepare the soil with confidence. Life is no different. When you shift your focus, you're not ignoring the soil. You're preparing the space for something new to bloom. And that takes practice, presence, and faith. You are not what happens to you. You are what you do with what happens. And that is determined by the way you choose to look. Real change begins when you stop being a prisoner of your perception and become its master. When you say to yourself, yes, I see what's here, but I choose to place my energy on what I want to build. It's in that silent choice that reality begins to move, because the field responds to the vibration of your intention. It doesn't need proof, it needs direction, and direction is given by how you focus. At every moment, you are sending a signal. I want more of this. And the universe responds with absolute precision. So changing your focus isn't pretending, it's transmuting. It's looking at life with new eyes, a new frequency, and a higher intention. It's telling yourself, I acknowledge what's here, but I choose to no longer feed it with my energy. From now on, I focus on what I want to grow. Technique: transitioning from limiting focus to creator focus. There comes a point when simply knowing that focus creates reality isn't enough. You must act. And in this case, acting doesn't mean taking immediate external steps. It means initiating an internal shift, moving from automatic, reactive, limiting focus into conscious, creative, and expansive focus. You spend much of your day observing the world through filters you often don't even notice. Silent phrases repeating in your mind, quick judgments about yourself, interpretations tinted by the past. All of this forms a lens, and that lens defines what you call my reality. But that reality is a construct in constant evolution, and that's exactly where your power lies. If you can sustain a focus that traps you, you can also learn to sustain a focus that sets you free. The first step in this transition is recognition. You need to identify, with presence and honesty, what limit you've been feeding with your attention. It might be a recurring fear, a belief in your own inadequacy, a vision of scarcity, a constant doubt about your worth. As painful as it may be, that limit has gained life because you've observed it. Wishing it away isn't enough. You must see how you're actively contributing to its existence through your focus. Once you've identified the pattern, look deeper. How does it take over your focus? What are the automatic thoughts that arise when that limit is triggered? What physical sensations does it bring? What stories do you repeat to justify it? This second step is crucial because it reveals how your mind builds itself around the limitation and shows the anchor points of the old pattern. Now comes the turning point, replacing your observation. This isn't just a mental process. It's energetic, emotional, and vibrational. It's placing yourself in the frequency of what you want to see flourish, even when your senses still point to the opposite. It's training your vision to see the new emerging where once there was only blockage. More than that, it's feeling the new as real, declaring with conviction that something is changing even before you have any proof. That's when creation truly begins. You step out of automatic reaction and into the realm of choice. You decide that you'll no longer observe fear as truth, but courage as a possibility. You'll no longer observe scarcity as your destiny, but abundance as an available frequency. And that becomes a daily practice, a discipline of presence and intention. Here, a simple yet powerful phrase can become your anchor in this process. From today on, I stop observing what limits me, and I begin to observe what sets me free. Say this with your heart, not as an empty mantra, but as an energetic declaration. Repeat it whenever you feel pulled back into old patterns. Let it remind you that focus is yours, power is yours, and yes, you can create a new reality by choosing a new way to see. Over time, this practice changes your field. The mind adjusts to the new frequency. Your energy reorganizes, and the universe begins to reflect back what you've courageously chosen to observe. Not because everything outside has changed, but because you've begun to see your inner world in a whole new light. The creation of the new begins in observation. Before any manifestation, before any achievement, before any visible transformation, there is a silent moment. That instant when something new is seen for the first time within consciousness. That's when everything begins. The creation of the new doesn't happen when reality changes, but when you change what you're willing to observe. With faith, with clarity, and with consistency. Everything that becomes matter was once intention. Everything that enters the world was once an inner vision. You might look around and think that things just happen, but in truth, every piece of your current reality is the result of past observations. Thoughts you repeated, emotions you felt, ideas you believed. Some of these observations were unconscious, inherited from collective beliefs or old programming. Others you fed intentionally, but all of them, without exception, helped weave the energetic fabric that shaped your now. Creation begins in the invisible. It begins when you, still without external proof, start to see a new path unfolding. When even though everything looks the same, you begin to notice within yourself a new vibration, a new possibility. And it's not just about imagining, it's about observing, with presence, with emotion, with surrender. It's seeing with the eyes of consciousness something that doesn't yet exist, but that begins to take form the moment you hold it within. This is how great transformations are born. No invention came from nothing. No breakthrough was created by someone who only looked at the obvious. Every visionary throughout history, from artists to scientists, from leaders to healers, had one thing in common. They saw something new before the world validated it. They trusted the vision before the proof. They believed in what was still invisible, and by doing so, they began anchoring an alternate reality in the vibrational field, one that became possible because it was first sustained by the eyes of the soul. Creative observation is a conscious act of faith. It's not about waiting for the world to change so you can believe. It's about believing so the world has vibrational permission to change. When you observe something with intention, with love, with truth, you create space in your field for that possibility to enter. You generate a frequency. You send out a signal. And the universe, which operates through resonance, begins to organize events, encounters, ideas, and movements that align your reality with what you are observing. But this process requires consistency, because the old world with its familiar triggers will still try to pull your gaze back. It will try to make you doubt. It will present evidence that nothing is changing. And it is in that moment you must choose to sustain the new with focus or to fall back into the patterns of the old. This is the silent battle that plays out every day, between creation and repetition, between vision and reaction. Once you understand that everything is born from observation, you begin to use your inner eyes with greater reverence. You start to honor what you see with your soul, not just your senses. You become the gardener of a world that hasn't yet blossomed, but already exists in potential, waiting for your attention to manifest. And then something magical happens. What was just a glimpse begins to take shape. What was just an idea begins to find confirmation. People show up, paths open, unexpected solutions appear, because the universe cannot resist focus sustained by faith. It bends to it, it cooperates, it expands. The universe can only expand what you have the courage to see differently. There is a higher intelligence that surrounds us, listens to us, and responds to us at all times. Some call it God, others call it the universe, source, or the quantum field. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that this intelligence doesn't operate through judgment or punishment, but with vibrational precision. It doesn't give you what you deserve by moral standards. It delivers what you have the courage to sustain with your focus, your vibration, and your gaze. And here lies one of the most powerful and overlooked truths. The universe can only expand what you have the courage to see in a new way. It won't push new possibilities into your life if you keep offering the same emotional responses, the same thoughts, the same judgments. The field doesn't move just because you want something new. It moves because you emit something new. And that emission begins when you change how you see. Changing your perspective takes courage because it means breaking deep-rooted patterns, letting go of the story you've told yourself for years. It means taking your eyes off the problem and choosing to see the solution, even when it hasn't appeared yet. It requires presence, because everything around you will try to convince you that nothing is changing. It requires surrender, because the new always arrives first as a vibration, not as a guarantee. When you choose to observe a difficult situation with a different perspective, something opens in the field. You stop repeating the old narrative of pain and begin sending out a signal of transformation. At first, the change might be subtle, a feeling, an intuition, a sense of relief. But that small energetic opening is all the universe needs to begin operating, because it's constantly scanning your vibrational state, and your vibrational state is shaped by the way you perceive life. If all you see is lack, the universe understands that this is what's available to you and expands it. But if you observe with faith what is still gestating, the universe understands that you're ready to receive and begins revealing paths that were previously invisible. But remember, the universe can't expand what you're afraid to see differently. If you look at a limitation with resentment, denial, or resignation, that energy closes itself off. But when you look at that same limit with love, acceptance, and a sincere desire to create something new, the field reorganizes. It's as if the universe were saying all the time, "Show me through your gaze what you're ready to experience." And that choice, that internal gesture, changes everything. Because seeing differently is really about changing the vibration you offer. It's saying, "I am no longer who I was when I created this limitation. I am someone who now chooses to see with awareness. And because of that, I'm ready for something new." It's not about forcing optimism or ignoring pain. It's about moving through the pain with a higher, wider, and more truthful vision. It's about allowing a new reality to begin inside you before it appears outside. Because the universe doesn't act first. It responds. It doesn't impose. It cooperates. And it can only cooperate with what you are willing to see from a new perspective. The universe is ready to surprise you, but it only responds to what you have the courage to see. It can only expand what you're already observing with love, with openness, with faith. So today, look at what you've been resisting and say inwardly, "I choose to see this with new eyes. I choose to activate a new reality here." That choice changes your frequency, and by changing your frequency, you change your destiny. We've reached the end of our journey, and maybe now you realize that true transformation doesn't come from what happens outside, but from what you choose to observe within. A new reality doesn't begin with more effort, more struggle, or more control. It begins when you stop observing old limits with reverence and start directing your awareness toward what you want to see bloom. Today, I invite you to make a simple and powerful move. Choose one limitation you've been feeding with your focus and shift your gaze. See beyond it. See what doesn't yet exist, but already pulses within you as possibility. Feel it as if it's already unfolding. Declare with faith, "My new begins now in what I choose to see." Remember, your new world is waiting for you, but it can only be born when you change what you choose to see.